You ask, we answer. Another episode of Ask SCPB here on the Squared Circle Psychobabble. My name is Michael Valenti. Joining me is Ralph Valenti. Ralph, of course, everyone's talking about the Elite and CM Punk still after 2 weeks after All Out. So our first question comes from Torta de Langua. If the Elite are 100% gone from AEW, should they sign a long-term deal with WWE, New Japan Pro Wrestling, or AAA?
They should sign with WWE because WWE will probably pay them more than any other company. That will be their best opportunity to raise their stock any higher than it already was. You might, honest to God, you might be able to make the argument that their peak was right at the beginning of AEW's formation. Before AEW was really a thing, I don't know if you would say really big in New Japan Pro Wrestling, but they were known and over to a certain extent where it was like people were going out of their way to see these guys. I think they have a loyal fan base. They got a big following, but recent numbers on some of the shows, especially on Dynamite, would certainly indicate that they are not they're not the main attraction AEW. I think that they probably could have gotten more from WWE prior to this stint, maybe in AEW. Though still WWE, I think, would still sign them. And they'd be silly not to go there, I think.
The Bucks are more likely to go to WWE. I feel like if they're done with AEW, Tony Khan lets them go, or their contracts are running out, and the whole testing feelers thing, whatever is true, which the Young Bucks said it's not.
Nope.
I think Kenny would go back to New Japan. Like with both of them, I feel like it's more of going back home, quote unquote. And with Kenny, I feel like his home away from home is Japan and New Japan Pro Wrestling, and going back there and working that New Japan style and doing what he can, and, you know, working with Tanahashi and Okada and having those matches again, or some of the up and comers in New Japan Pro Wrestling, I think is more where he would want to go. I don't really think he fit well in WWE. I don't even think he'd fit well even more now with Triple H involved. Young Bucks, on the other hand, it's pretty obvious they wish they were Shawn Michaels. They really do. And now they have the opportunity to be under Triple H and Shawn Michaels in this new creative regime and, you know, work in the tag team division that seems to be getting better. I mean, it's still a far cry from AEW's tag team division and still a work in progress, but I think a lot of people would love the opportunity to see the Young Bucks versus the New Day, or the Young Bucks versus the Usos. But on top of that, you also bring in the home aspect of it, family. I don't think the Young Bucks want to go back to that. Let's fly to Japan. Let's fly to Mexico. Let's fly to the States, do all these different traveling that you're going to have to do when you're not in either AEW or WWE. If you're WWE, yeah, you're traveling 300 days but you're still primarily in the United States, and the workload, obviously with the brand split, really helped a lot of these wrestlers where they're only working Monday or Friday, and a select few are working the house shows on the weekends. It's not like everybody's working 300 days. I mean, how many days does the freaking top champion work now? 100, if that? I could see the Young Bucks signing with WWE with the contingency even to say, we want limited dates, and I don't see why Triple H would say no to that. Our next question comes from Patrick Holefield. The news that the Young Bucks may be trying to find their value in WWE. Does Triple H take a try at them since they would be wrestlers only and not EVPs? Are they considered locker room nuisances? Would Cody be asked for his opinion? Is there a chance we could really find out if there is backstage beef between Cody and the Elite? And he does apologize, saying, I know there's a lot of questions here, but I'm just curious. So yes, there's a lot to dive in there. So does Triple H take a stab at them? We kind of answered that one already.
Yeah.
I say yes. You say yes.
I say yes.
Are they locker room nuisances? Deep down, they're trying to just get the best out of everybody. I just think there's a difference of philosophy, and some people just don't like the style that they bring. Especially, there's a lot of people that don't like their style of tag team wrestling, which when they're with the right partners, they can work some great tag team matches. I think it's just because of they're more trying to work the styles that the opponents want to work, not necessarily a quote unquote traditional tag team match. Because if they stick to traditional tag teams, they really can work those matches and tell a good story and all that. It's just, they just work with guys that don't get it. And they allow them to.
I don't think I would call them a backstage nuisance. I think right now, there's some people who have certain opinions about them depending on, who you choose to listen to. And look, we don't even have all the facts on this whole thing right now. You have people that would say CM Punk is a locker room cancer. Is he that?
Right.
I don't know. Maybe he's just really passionate about pro wrestling. Definitely think they would ask Cody, hey, what do you think? Do you think they're a good fit? That's a no-brainer. But I absolutely think Triple H would take a stab at them. Why wouldn't he?
To answer the question about will we ever find out if there's any problems between Cody and the Bucks and the Elite, I honestly don't think there was a said problem. I think really what all that started was, Cody had his things that he wanted to do with storylines and booking, and Kenny wanted to do his things, and the Bucks wanted to do their things. And Tony Khan was like, guys, I'm the one booking the shows. And I think that's just kind of where everything just kind of devolved out of the Elite and Cody Rhodes and led to the eventual departure of Cody. I don't think there's a problem between Cody and the Bucks and the Elite. I just think they have different philosophies of what they want out of wrestling. Yeah. And Cody's more likely to get what he wants out of wrestling in WWE right now. And Tony Khan wasn't giving him that. Right now, the Bucks want something else. And if they're, only reaching out to Triple H just to see, negotiation. I mean, is it technically contract tampering? I guess depending on who they talk to. Say Matt Jackson talks to Xavier Woods and then they're communicating. It's essentially what in the NBA they kind of do, to collude their ways into different teams and make these trifectas. That's exactly what they're doing. If that's what's happening. I don't even know to what extent the conversation's happening, which apparently was shot down by the Bucks, so it doesn't even matter. But I say yes with Triple H. I say yes, they would ask Cody. I don't think they're locker room nuisances, and I don't think there's really that big of an issue between Cody and the Bucks and the Elite. But next question comes from Brian Fahey. On the other side of the altercation, if CM Punk does not walk or get fired, how would you book him when he returns?
I don't know what type of reaction he's going to get from the fans. I think he would still get a favorable one, but I do think a certain percentage of the fan base is pretty pissed off about this whole thing. So assuming he comes back, let's just say Max would have been the money feud, and I still want to see it. I don't think you can put him right in that title picture if Max is going to be the champion. I don't think you put him right back in there with Mox. If it were me, I think a good feud to return to would be somebody like Jericho. A big name, familiar with each other. There's history there. They could talk shit to each other about how, he didn't say anything bad about Punk, but he said things like, this is my locker room, things like little jabs at Punk. So that's what the direction I would go.
I think you have to go with MJF. That has to be the money feud. You are going to get a huge negative boo heat response from CM Punk when he returns. I think MJF at that point will be hugely over and maybe have even turned babyface at this point. But if not, when CM Punk comes back, he has turned babyface. It's an easy story. Just like we talked about this, I think last week when someone asked about the interim championship and would you rather have an interim champion or just have the guy vacate the title? This is going to be the story coming out because Punk did not lose the title.
Yeah.
He won the match at All Out. He tore his tricep and he's going for the title. He never lost. Don't have him try to climb up the ladder or whatever. He didn't lose it. He's still the number one contender. So go from there. And if it's against MJF, you've just literally done what WWE did with Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar is you tell the same story, but now the roles are reversed. And MJF is the babyface and CM Punk is the heel. I think that would do huge numbers. Next question comes from one of our mid-card members, Matthew Piles. And if you're not a member yet, you can join by clicking the join button under our video here or in the link in the description. Get some cool perks, including priority of getting your questions answered, ad-free episodes, early access to episodes, and a lot more. So our next question is from Matthew Piles. How do you see what happens between the Elite and CM Punk affect AEW, both short-term and long-term, also both positively and negatively? I think we're starting to see some of the positives where Punk's not on, the Elite's not on, but yet you still have some star power and there's been some focus from Tony Khan going, all right, We need to make sure the people that could draw ratings are on every single week. And Jericho's been on, Danielson's been on, Moxley's been on, MJF has been on. The viewership is slowly going up. The ratings are slowly going up. Look, they're number 1 or number 2 almost every week the last 12 weeks. And this is the fall season. This is like prime time television shows are going to be on. And you got the NBA coming back. You got the NFL coming back. The NHL's coming back. So this is the most competitive time in television. So you got to get your ratings, in top shape, because you also have contract negotiations coming up because your TV deal is going to be ending up next year. So those talks are going to be starting probably the end of this year, early next year. I think positively, Tony Khan has got himself back on the right track with this and started, seeing himself as like, listen, I'm the boss. I call the shots. Enough of this, let's all be friends kind of thing. But we're here to make money and we're here to make, fans enjoy the show. No more backstage crap. If you have some shit you got to deal with, there's the door. Go settle it somewhere else. I think that's a good positive.
Long term, the person who's got the most to lose out of all this is CM Punk. The unfortunate thing, whether it truly was him or WWE's fault during his run, you definitely are going to get the people that are going to point to this now and say, see, Triple H called it. They said it, whether it was a worked shoot or whatever. It's just Punk being Punk. He's no spring chicken. He's certainly older. This is probably going to be his last run unless he goes back to WWE at some point. He may be the one guy that never does go back. I don't know. So if this is it, if this is how it ends, that'll suck for him, because that could be a big part of his legacy. He's been to the 2 big promotions, big promotion AEW, a newer promotion, but still. And it didn't necessarily work out in either. It's hard to really say it's the other party when you're involved on both of these here. So long term, this could have a lot to do an impact on the lasting legacy of CM Punk. Bucks, I think they'll be there for a while. They can always right the ship. Omega, the same thing. Like their legacy isn't set in stone. They can always kind of, right this wrong, or so to speak. So no, I agree. I think this gives the guys that are currently there a good opportunity to kind of show that, look, like this is still AEW. We're still here for the right reasons. We could still put on good shows. So
from a long-term perspective with the Bucks and Kenny, they had a lot to prove heading into AEW, because here are these guys that, really the internet wrestling community know. They never were really on national television in the United States. They had to prove like they're changing the industry of professional wrestling with Tony Khan. And if they essentially leave AEW and AEW grows because of that, does their involvement in the legacy get lost because of this?
Nope. And who else's doesn't? Cody's doesn't either, because I see a lot of people see that he shouldn't get any recognition. He was one of the integral parts of AEW coming to fruition, and he doesn't get credit for it because suddenly the fans just decided, we don't want to, we're done with you. We'll move on to the next one.
Next question here comes from Vorn Sovanara, and I apologize if I mispronounced that, but if Brody Lee were still alive today, would he be a locker room leader like Jon Moxley, Chris Jericho, and Bryan Danielson?
I would think so. I mean, he's been in the industry for a really long time. He had a great run in AEW. I think, honestly, when I think of the TNT Championship, to me, quite honestly, I think of Cody and I think of Brody Lee. That was the feud that really, to me, was one of the most prominent ones, that was most important. I mean, some of their grudge matches, the dog collar match, that earns your respect when you're able to go out there and do that type of stuff. So yeah, I think he would have been a locker room leader from the outside looking in.
Right. I think either, maybe not at the same level as Moxley, Danielson, and Jericho, but I think he's probably that guy that, if you need a quick pick-me-up. Yeah, exactly. I think he fits that Mick Foley role, where if he absolutely needs to be the leader, he can be. But if not, he could still be a guy that you can lean towards, ask for advice. If you need a smile on your face, he could definitely do that. I felt like that could have been a role for Brody Lee if he was still here. And that seems like that was what he was doing, while he was in AEW before his passing. So, and he definitely left an impression on so many people in AEW, even though he was only there not even a year. an integral part of the locker room. We'll say it, at least that. Our next question comes from Rasmus Emil Bertelson. Should someone win the AEW championship in between the winner of Moxley and Bryan Danielson and MJF?
I don't think so. I
So
think
whoever wins that Grand Slam holds it till MJF takes it, and that's it.
In my opinion, yes. MJF should be, a title reign should be in the very near future for MJF, I would think.
Yes, I agree. But, we talked about this on our earlier episode this week when we were doing our wrestling week in review, where I kind of brought up Battle of the Belts. They haven't really done anything to get people talking out of those shows because it's been pretty predictable. The champions end up retaining. If Moxley goes on his little vacation, Danielson wins the AEW World title, but then MJF cashes his chip in at Battle of the Belts, wins the title there, and then you go to Moxley at Full Gear, you could do that. I mean, I don't see them going to someone else outside of those three with the path of the AEW World Championship at this current time. And even if you wanted to do something in between, who right now is built up to that point?
I don't think they have anybody right now.
No.
Everybody that was capable, most of them were in that bracket.
Our last question comes from another mid-card member, Chip O, and his question is, if you're Tony Khan, do you bring back Jeff Hardy, and if so, when? I think if he's, clean and good to go, obviously, sure. Yes. The question is when he's sober and ready to go. It's hard. When it comes to these addiction things, and especially with Jeff Hardy, who this isn't his first rodeo going through this, you don't want to rush him back. If it means another 6 months to a year, let him go 6 months to a year. We haven't really talked much about Jeff Hardy because of all the stuff that's been happening in AEW on and off in and out of the ring. He's definitely a popular wrestler, and I bet when he comes back, he'd come back to a huge ovation. Some people would like to see him have one last singles run that leads to a championship, and some would love to see the Hardy Boys have a real title run in AEW. You definitely bring him back, but on the contingency, he's healthy, he's sober, and he's ready to go. Because you do not want him having a relapse and causing danger to himself or others in the ring.
Do you bring him back? Of course. I mean, I think even if, the time came for them to go and do, even if it's like a one-off with the WWE, I think they would bring him back. I mean, he's one of the he's one half of the best tag teams of all time. Well, one of the most well-known tag teams of all time. Maybe even the most well-known tag teams ever. I mean, you could say them, you could say the Freebirds, you could say
Road Warriors,
any of them, but they're popular. But yeah, assuming the timing is right, when he's healthy, sober, then yeah.
Right. Yeah, of course. And if you have any questions for our next Ask SCPB episode, you can put them in the comments below. You could also tweet us at SCPB Podcast. And if you want top priority, become a member of the SCPB membership. Click the link in the description. And don't forget to share this all over social media. We'll see you on the next episode of the Squared Circle Psycho Babble.